What we have here is a restored version of something that's close to the original mill, which was originally located over here on the other side of the mill race. Okay. In the late 1800s, a two-story version was built. So you can see the curve. Got operated for many years and it was abandoned in about 1945. In 1975, the Irishman, an immigrant, who was in the milling business at the time, decided he wanted to restore this building. And that's the version he came up with. He left this monument here, which is saying that his work was dedicated to his late wife.
Okay.
Who lived here for about 6 months when she was about 6 years old.
Okay.
And the house that's up there is shown by the chimneys. That was the Miller's house. It was built pre-Civil War, just before the Civil War, I think.
Wow.
It finally collapsed about 2 years ago, and we salvaged the lumber and left the rest of it there. But if you read this thing, it says the mill was restored in loving memory of Barbara Allen Walsh Britton, and who was the daughter of Walsh Britton. Underneath the Britton Cameron, who was Bill Cameron's wife. Down there at the bottom it says Ich dien, which is German for I serve.
Okay.
Bill Cameron came from Ireland. He served in the Irish Fusiliers, who is the Queen of England's guard. That was during World War I. Then he immigrated and ended up being drafted, being the oldest draftee from Missouri in the Second World War.
Wow.
And he was quite a character from what I've read.
Yeah.
When he did this work, when he finished this restoration, he was 80 years old.
Oh my.
He's been around for a long while. I don't have a good history on it. This particular shaft right here, I have recognized as being installed in the mill, the original mill.
Okay.
That end there is driven by a turbine, which is driven by the water. And then this went inside the mill. I have a picture which shows this shaft, or this pulley being on the outside of that old mill. And it was used to drive the mill with a steam engine when the water was low and drought.
Oh, okay.
So they would put a belt on this pulley and run it out to the steam engine. There's an earlier picture which shows the steam engine was located on the other side of Turnback Creek, and they ran a belt all the way across the creek into the mill.
Oh.
This was a much simpler application. This structure here is not historic. Bill Cameron built a utility shed that holds some of the equipment.
Okay.
It is during the restoration. Likewise, this mill space here is not original either. Cameron built it, built this building to drive that water wheel. So he had his plan during the restoration was to use this waterway to drive that wheel, and also the turbine, which was in the main This is the on and off switch to operate the wheel.
Okay.
The gates have been removed, but you drop the gates at the end of your business day and let the wheel pond fill up. So the next day you go back, lift the gates, and you turn everything on.
Okay.
It runs. That's the theory.
Right.
You have a similar gate right there on that sluice, so you could open and close.
Oh. Okay.
You never got the wheel back in operation, as far as I can tell. And the dam, which is upstream about 100 yards, it's across Turnback Creek, which goes across our property, over there. The dam was broken, was dynamited, we think, by some fishermen, maybe some farmers who objected to this property getting that water.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Actually, that doesn't do a thing for them, but it doesn't increase their water flow.
Right.
But anyway, the dam was restored by the owner we bought it from in 1993. And the water came over the dam for the first time after that restoration in January of 93. In April of 93, there was a 500-year flood, wiped out the dam again.
Oh, wow.
It still is not fixed, and I'm not about to do it.
Well.
When the two-story mill was operating, this turbine down in that pit, with a couple of iron supports, little boxes, you could sit down on those, and then there was a wooden floor. Built around the bottom of this turbine. So the water would go through the thing.
Yes.
That would provide the power. It's a two-story structure. A lot more capability. Over time, more and bigger. Got here in 2002. The water wheel was a shambles. It wanted to crumble, and it didn't have a roof over it to protect it. So it's on the south side. It gets all the sun and the ice in the winter and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up rebuilding it. This is a copy of what was there.
Okay.
But like that, this wheel turns.
Oh, wow.
And it's driven by an electric motor inside.
Okay.
So this gets driven from inside as opposed to this wheel delivering power to the inside.
Okay.
And it's just for show.
Yes.
It's not, as I learned, it's not simple. It does require routine maintenance. After I built the wheel a few years later, well, 15 years later, it had gotten so loose that it was rubbing on bedrock down here.
Oh.
and I spent a year trying to fix it. And finally, I just went around and tightened 225 bolts, and that brought it back so it turns freely now.
Wow.
And I increased the outflow there because that had silted up, which caused, when we had a flood, debris came in here, got underneath the water wheel, the water left and debris was stuck and the wheel wouldn't turn.
Oh gosh. Wow.
This is called OJT, on the job training.
Oh, yes.
This is the flag that would have been here when this mill was in operation in 1845.
Wow.
I think there's 41 stars on this flag.
Wow.
And again, this is not much. When we got here, it was almost nothing inside. And again, in our ignorance, we stored about half of our furnishings down here because our house was too small to accept it. And it was total ignorance that we did this because every couple of years we get a flood inside this building.
Oh, no. Oh,
and
okay.
we could have lost an awful lot of stuff.
Sure.
As it was, the mice took their share anyway.
Oh, wow.
So what we have done since we got here is install the elevator here
Okay.
and converted. This is a brand sifter, you say. The purpose of it is after you've ground the product, you run it through this machine and it gets the chaff off that was on the kernel.
Okay.
It separates that from the kernel that you want. And so my modification was to put these 4 panels here which have this size grit and 2 panels here which is bigger,
Okay.
so we could sort grits from cornmeal.
Oh, wow.
And we start out with shell corn going into that grinder over there, and it comes out looking like that, and it goes through this piece and separates those two, and this is what's left over called Midlands. I have to take the grits and process them a little further over here. Really fancy machine there. This is my invention.
Okay.
You pour the grits in here. This fan blows the light stuff out in here, and it's collected below, and the grits fall into here because they're heavy.
Okay.
So this is a further refinement of cleaning. If you don't do this, when you put your grits in the water to cook, all the light stuff floats to the top, and you still have to take it off.
Yes. Yes.
So the process starts here. I buy shell corn,
Okay.
which is cattle feed,
Yes.
and run it through here. This shakes. Let's step on something here. And the corn goes here. It's separated. The kernels. The kernels flow off of this one into this box. The trash goes off the outside. All it drops through the dust drops through to that collector down there.
Okay, yes.
So now we have relatively clean corn. We take over here and throw into this hopper. This is a feeder. It goes in here, it shakes and drops the corn into the center. This is vertical wheel. It's about a 17-inch diameter wheel. One end is fixed and one rotates. So it goes into the center of that, it rotates and it comes out here, goes into our elevator, which takes it up, drops it down that chute, and goes into the filter I showed you before.
Yes, okay.
And that drops it in two different pans on the bottom and go over there, and then that all goes up to the house to be packaged.
Wow.
I haven't operated the mill since a flood a year ago. We've run into a number of health problems and other issues. So I can't show you anything significant. I'll turn this stuff on so you can listen to it. The elevator here runs down and picks up the meal that ran into the bottom of it.
Okay.
It's in the foot. He scoops, takes it up, goes down here. This tray, take this thing off, and it goes in here. And this is a tapered bucket, so that it feeds by gravity through these panels and then these panels.
Wow.
That's the basic operation. So my purpose for doing all this was to show there's a factory. You put something in at the head of it and you take out the good stuff down here without having to touch it. It almost works out.
Yes.
Usually when I get something going here, something jumps up off the pulley or jams.
Sure.
It's always a hassle.
Oh, yeah.
But you get good grits and corn out of plenty of it.
Wow. Yes.
The grits are different than what you can buy at the store. Those have been processed one step more to take the germ out of the corn kernel.
Yeah.
So the shelf life is almost indefinite.
Okay.
In our case, we leave it in. I think it's better, a little bit more substantive.
Right.
And we kept it refrigerated for 5 years and it's still perfectly good.
Wow. Yes.
I don't know what would happen if it weren't refrigerated, but I'm sure in the past
Well, yeah.
I didn't turn the grinder on, but it has its own motor.
Okay.
And this again is not a commercial device. It's a very small family size piece of equipment. I can grind about 50 pounds in an hour.
Wow.
So that's not a whole lot of production. I don't have any records of what it was producing when it was a full-size operation. But it would certainly be more than 50 pounds an hour.
Right.
This little room was a puzzlement to us when we got here. The floor had collapsed, and this wall had moved out about 6 or 8 inches. And apparently that was from the '93 flood, the wall being moved out.
Okay.
And there were bars over the windows, or a heavy screen really. So I couldn't understand why this one was standing, but very dilapidated, where that building wasn't. And it turns out this was added to the two-story mill in about 1900. So it had stood here longer than the rehab half over here.
Wow.
However, we've got an operating stove in here, a wood stove, but you may be able to feel the draft now because all the leaks in, well, the whole thing, we can't heat the building.
Sure.
You can stand over here and get radiant energy, but you're not going to get warm in there.
Right.
The only other thing of interest in here, I think, is this is remnants of the house that was up there, the Miller's house. It started out as a log cabin, two-room log cabin with a dog-trot hallway. We didn't know that until it fell apart. And we found that the sills, the wood sills for the foundation were laid on dry stacked rocks, and they were hand hewn 12 inches by 12 inches. They had been notched for dovetail connection to the sills. Well, the joist had been notched to fit into dovetails on the sills. The bark was still on the joist, except for where the top had been shaved off, so you could put flooring on it.
Okay.
I was just absolutely amazed that somebody could do that with all hand implements.
Yeah.
And it stood for almost 200 years. In fact, there was no rot on those timbers.
Wow.
And it was only off the ground this far.
Wow.
I don't know how that happened.
Oh, that's something. Yeah.
Then at some point in time, the walls were replaced with mill lumber. And this is an example. This I think this is cedar, but I can't tell. But it's tongue and grooved.
Okay.
So it was run through a mill to get it flat on both sides, and then put the tongue and groove on it. And this is the way it was installed. It's toe-nailed into the sills, and there was a joist that went around the inside where they tacked the top.
Wow.
But there was no framing. There are no vertical supports except these, because and that's from the tongue and groove.
Yeah.
I'm dazzled by all that.
Ah, yes.
And then that was the two rooms were there, had this on it, and then there were subsequent additions of a kitchen and a dining area and even an indoor bathroom, which was typical 2x4 studs. But all of that was hidden from us until it fell apart.
I see. I see.
And let's see, is there anything else? Oh, we have, as far as I know, this is original writing. We didn't put it up here. But these are the products they were producing at the end of its commercial life.
Okay.
and I don't even know what much of that stuff is. But I think the only difference is how fine they ground the corn.
I see.
And oh, yeah, you have down to flour. I think that's corn flour, but I'm sure in the early version that they were grinding wheat.
Okay.
Wheat was grown as a commercial crop in Missouri
Yes.
at that time. All righty.
Wow.
Now, let's see. Square nails that came out of the old house up there. Somebody made all those nails.
Yes. Yes.
You think about how many nails went into that.
It's a lot of nails.
The barn across the way there,
Uh-huh.
I recently had a roof put on it.
Okay.
Underneath the tin is cedar shakes.
Okay.
Cedar shakes were built with a hatchet. You had a log and you cut it, well actually you half it, and you half it again, you half it again, and you half it again to get all those shakes.
Wow.
There were hundreds of shakes.
Wow.
How could one or two or three people just make the shakes, let alone install them?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot of work.
Down below we have a cellar, which is just used to maintain the shaft that runs underneath there. It's got bushings that have to be oiled occasionally.
I see.
And you certainly don't use it for storage because of the risk of floods.
yeah.
That's where it starts.
Person would be
Down at
sorry.
the bottom.
There's some pictures up here which the fellow on the right is Bill Cameron,
Okay.
and the fellow on the left was one of his helpers.
Uh-huh.
This is the restoration as they began. It gives you an idea of how dilapidated it
Why,
was.
yes.
Here's a painting that a couple of ladies who came out here, or they've been out a couple of times to do the airplane painting in outdoors.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So they have to work pretty quickly to get the shading consistent. And they sit out there and work for 2 hours, and they come up with something which is almost finished. They take it home and finish it in the studio.
I see.
And one of them brought this one for us.
Wow.
This is a view of the restoration, which shows the original stonework that was put in here
Okay.
for the mill. It is remarkable to me that it's lasted 200 years.
Yeah.
There have been some repairs up here,
Uh-huh.
but down below is original. And that's a lot of rock.
That is a lot of rock.
Somebody had to carry all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, remember too that they had to build the mill race, which is 100 yards long, 150 yards. And they had mules and slaves, and that was it.
Wow. Wow. A lot of work.
Here's a shovel, or a horse-drawn, mule-drawn shovel. When we got here, these handles were not installed, and I couldn't figure out how the thing worked.
Okay, yeah.
It seemed it could be drawn here,
Right.
but to guide it was very difficult.
Yes.
We happened into a mining museum
Mm-hmm.
in Colorado where they had this device with handles.
Okay.
Okay.
All of a sudden it became obvious
It's,
how they did that.
Made sense.
So I built some handles for it, but I haven't ever used it. I don't have a horse
Yeah, yeah,
or a mule.
right.
This is a typical bevel gear that would be used to drive something and turn a shaft at 90 degrees.
Uh-huh.
But the interesting thing about it is these teeth
Yeah.
are all wood.
I noticed that.
And that's so that if you get a jam, the wood breaks is easy to replace
Oh, okay.
rather than have a shaft get bent.
And then you'd be in trouble, otherwise.
Straighten was a long
Oh.
shaft. And I was surprised at how effective that is to keep your equipment working or get it working again easily. Apparently, it was a simple matter to whittle these teeth and you knock
Just
one
keep
out
it going.
and shove another one in.
Wow.
This is a corn sheller, again, for domestic use, not for commercial use, but the idea is that you stick a corn cob with the shells in it here, and you crank this thing, and there's a you can see a gear in here.
Oh, yeah.
And there's two wheels with the teeth on them. So the corn goes down through there, fits between those two wheels. The corn is extracted, stripped off, drops to the bottom, and the corn cob comes out over here.
Okay.
So if you want corn for dinner, you put a few corn cobs on it and turn it right out, and there you are.
There you are.
It goes in the pot.
Wow.
This thing I found at an antique store in Springfield. I paid $100, $110 for it. And I found the catalog, a 1912 catalog, which had this very gadget in it. And they were selling it then for $10.
Okay.
And if you wanted this chute, that was another $1. So I bought this and saved $1.
You did all right. Yes. Yeah.
And these pulleys are unique and interesting to me. I didn't know this, but this pulley comes apart in two pieces.
Okay.
So you can stick it on the line shaft anywhere you want it without taking all the others first.
Okay.
So you just clamp it together in the spot you want it on the shaft.
Okay.
There's an earlier version of the same thing right there in wood. That one was built in St. Louis.
Okay.
I don't know where this one came from, but I presume they were used at some point in the mill somewhere.
That's in the two pieces.
Yeah, that's
Also,
you can
yeah.
see it comes
Wow.
apart. The hopper over there is a wood hopper which fed a grinding wheel that was in here. It was horizontal. I have a picture of it. It was something that Bill Cameron found, or else it was left over and nobody had wanted it. Somebody got it. Or we may have one half of it out there at the end of that. And we have at least 3 grinding wheels here, but they're all different diameters, so none of them match and were never used here. And this red thing was left here. It's a seed sifter.
Okay.
I don't know who or why it's here, who used it, or if it was used in this operation. But I have little use for it. I can't throw it away.
Well, no.
Never know, you might come in handy.
It's true.
Oh, let's see, there's one little gadget here. some interest here. These millers were very industrious and geniuses. This, I don't know what the purpose of this was, but the miller fashioned this pulley here. I think this is hand done. It could have been done on a lathe. And then mounted a belt pulley. So you would get a mechanical advantage if you ran this with a belt and another belt up here. But the whole thing is hand done.
Wow.
And had some special purpose, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me what these guys could do with very few tools.
Oh, yes.
And certainly no mechanical. Here's a measuring pole. See all the inches here?
Yes.
And this, I believe, was used to determine how much water you had in the pond.
Oh, okay.
I had no idea about 19th century technology. I was in the defense industry. We were doing heat-seeking missiles.
Oh, okay.
Which they're entirely different technologies to keep from the military. These are prairie docks. They make a leaf which is about 2 feet long, which stays near the base. And then it produces a flower that's way up here.
Wow.
And the root supposedly goes as deep as 12 feet.
Wow.
When I dug these up, the most I could get was about a foot of root.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't come. But they're going to produce and they'll multiply, and I'm just all excited about them.
Well, yes.
The reason I'm so excited about this is the person we bought the property is a painter,
Okay.
professional painter. And she entered a watercolor in Springfield and won an award. It's just a picture of this plant, the leaf of this plant, and it is so realistic
Yeah.
that you have to go up and touch it
Just
to find out that it's not.
right. Right.
So anyway, this is in honor of her. Near a flood stage here. This is not typical. This structure here is a chicken coop.
Yeah.
But the unique thing about it is it's 2 sides of it are masonry.
Okay. I see that.
This is pointing west and north. I think to give the chickens some more protection from the weather. We got a root shower here. This is a part of a fence to keep the cattle. I think it was to keep the chickens in and the cattle out. The old house was built originally with these 2 chimneys, fireplaces. And these were delivered in mule-pull wagons, pre-cut.
Wow.
So they just brought the wagons in here, and with a numbering system, I don't know how it works exactly, they just stacked them.
Sure.
And the mortar is Missouri mud.
Okay.
They built these before they found lime.
Okay.
I don't understand how it survived as long as it did. That one over there has some repair on it.
Uh-huh.
The use part. These were cut so square that the run was enough to keep them in place.
Did the job, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the first cabin was here, and then it expanded to a kitchen, and that's probably the last well we had here.
Okay.
There's another one over there. That was hand dug.
Okay.
And then there's another one on the other side of this one, which is totally covered up.
See.
There's dispute about what this was used for, and it's a fairly modern building. There's a Missouri license plate buried in the wall here, so we know this was done sometime after 1920.
Right. Okay.
But it's got a drain in the floor that floods the left of it, goes out on the downside. I'm thinking it was a slaughterhouse for pork. Other people think it was a milk where it was used for processing the milk.
Okay.
Our barn only has room for 2 cows. I don't think they did
Yeah,
much
that's-
processing of milk.
Right. Yeah.
Unless they were really good cows.
Well, and of course, Highway 96 was put in early 60s, I think. That certainly would drive me bananas to have all the trucks passing this close to us. But it was located long before the highway was. At this porch, I have a picture of it back in the 20s, where it was wood. So the concrete and the flagstones were added later.
I see. Wow.
They had a child's merry-go-round here,
Oh, okay.
fashioned out of an old toy.
We've been looking forward to this, and I actually it's better than what I anticipated. I enjoyed this.